Hi everyone, Oli here. Welcome to my review of the Gunfighters, the 8th story of the 3rd season of classic Doctor Who, starring William Hartnell as the First Doctor. This is the 25th story overall, 4 episodes long, and it's written by Donald Cotton. The Gunfighters is also the 8th pure historical story of Doctor Who. All 4 episodes exist in the archives, so that's a good thing. I have the DVD, so that explains it. The Gunfighters also kicks off William Hartnell's final 5 stories, so we don't really have much of Hartnell left after this story. And the Gunfight is also the last story to have individual episode titles. From the Savages, everything is titled episode 1, 2, and so forth. I'm testing out an audio approach to this review due to certain reasons, and some reviews may have video reviews with my face in them, and some reviews just be audio reviews, and they may remain like this for the time being. So aside from the the review format, let's get on to the plot of the Gunfighters. When the Doctor, Stephen, and Dodo arrive in the town of Tombstone in 1881, the Doctor's only aim is to find a dentist. Adamant they should only stay a night in Tombstone, the Doctor finds their stay prolonged when he inadvertently becomes involved in a group of gunmen out to kill Doc Holliday. So, the Gunfighters, it's considered to be one of the worst Hartnell stories, but in my opinion, I don't think it's as bad as it's made out to be by some fans, and it's a shame that this is the lowest rated stories in Classic Who in terms of viewers back then. And in his story, he became the producer of the last story. He used the Gunfighters to base his argument that pure historicals should be scrapped from Doctor Who entirely, and he does kind of win this argument as we only have like 2 historicals after this, and an historical in the fifth Doctor era, and that's probably the last pure historical to this date. Okay. I like the set design of the Gunfighters. I like the production that went into it. The costumes, it felt authentic. It captured that Wild West feel, a campy Wild West feel. And the costumes are good. It was not too flashy compared to some cowboy movies we've seen in the past, or cowboy musicals. But Steven's costume was a bit flashy in those times. Even the Doctor actually told him off for it. The direction by Eric Tucker was decent. The acting was alright, nothing bad, although some of the American accents by the British actors were quite laughable. So, plot wise, it was alright, nothing to complain about. I thought it was okay. Some parts it did drag, but it was fun to watch, considering the fact that Gunfighters is a comedic story, just like the Romans, and there were some elements of comedy and some elements of drama. But obviously, the Romans they did it a lot better than the Gunfighters, but both are still enjoyable in my opinion, especially Gunfighters and Romans. So now on to the Gunfighters. The Doctor was great in this story. I loved how he was still holding his pacifist views in this story, and he was mistaken for Doc Holliday, and it was a good thing that he doesn't really have William Hunter doesn't have to do like much of the heavy lifting, but he's still including it. He's still included in some of the in the main plot of the story, while the other younger actors pretty much do the heavy lifting, while the Doctor's just there drinking, well, not drinking, just there with the other good characters, while Stephen is there as well, and Dodo is captured by Doc Holliday, even though they don't do much. Although Stephen, or should I say Stephen Regret, he does he does do some bits and pieces, but not as much as Dodo, even though they don't really do much, but yeah, they still contribute to the plot in some way. I also liked how she was able to escape from Johnny Ringo's hostage situation when he was using her as a human shield in the OK Corral gunfight, and then I think it was Masterson that shot him to death, and then Dodo is able to escape to the Doctor. So now onto the side characters of this story. I like Doc Holliday and his coffin girlfriend Kate Fisher. I think they stood out compared to the rest of the guest cast. Johnny Ringo was a good villain, even though he doesn't show up halfway through the story. But he does have some part to play in the story before he shows up, and then when he shows up, he kills Charlie the barman, which was quite shocking. But it was still a good way to establish his character. And the secondary villains were the Clanton brothers, who was dastardly as well. And I liked the cliffhanger when they killed Warren up while they were freeing one of the Clanton brothers who was in jail. One thing that made the story enjoyable was the Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon song that was played during the transition scenes and the cliffhanger. And this is called the Greek chorus, and this was a good feature to the story. It really gave off the campy Wild West feel to it, and it was a very good half as well. I mean, if it wasn't there, it would just been dull. I I have the song on my Spotify, and it's actually very enjoyable to watch, to listen to, and I think the singing was very good, and then it was a nice little addition to this story. Even I wish they did include the whole everything that was in filmed in that all the transitions that was featured into, but they only featured like a 4 minute version of it into Spotify. I mean, you can find it on the 50th anniversary edition of songs and soundtrack of Doctor Who. And I liked how the story was continued from the Celestial Toymaker, where the Doctor and Co escaped from the Toymaker's realm, and the Doctor got a toothache from eating one of the cereal's sweets. And I liked how at the end of the Gunfighters, it somewhat continues into the Savages when the Doctor, Stephen, and Dodo are in the TARDIS, and then the Doctor tells them they've landed, and they said that they've landed in a time with peace and prosperity, and we see this man in savage clothing being coming towards the TARDIS. And it actually does pick up from that point in the Savages, where Dodo actually sees the guy and she gets frightened and leads onto that story. I do have some issues with the Gunfighters, for instance. For example, I think the pacing was inconsistent. Some parts was okay, but then other parts are just dragged, and it was a little bit boring. I mean, some historical stories actually suffer from this, and great ones such as the Romans, which is a fan favorite and a near favorite of mine as well. It was quite good, but there were some parts that were just boring. And Marco Polo, and that's or Holy Grove, the missing episodes. That one just actually suffers badly from the pacing issues and the timing pacing issues. I think they were talking too much, and then I think, as I mentioned in that review, I think the writers spent a bit more time on the production rather than the actual script, and it shouldn't have been 7 episodes long. Also, in the Gunfighters, there are some inaccuracies. I mean, it does really give an example of bad writing and lack of research, for example. So the inaccuracies in this story that some of the characters were not present in the real life Okikuro gunfight, such as Masterson, Bat Masterson, Warren Up, Johnny Ringo, and one of the Clanton brothers. And the Doctor Who Wiki actually explains this. Warren Up, the guy that was killed in episode 3, he actually died in 1900, not in 1881. So, as I mentioned before, like a few seconds ago, it does show lack of research skills. But considering the fact this is the 1960s, there was no like computers or history textbooks that actually covered the whole thing. So I'll give them a pass for that, because obviously this is the 1960s. It was just made in the 60s. I mean, if this was made today, obviously there would have been some sci-fi elements included into the story, and they would have featured some elements of history into this story. And also the cliffhanger for episode 1. I hope someone actually explains this to me, because I didn't really understand. I mean, Stephen was singing about the Last Chance Saloon, and Dodo was playing on the piano, and all of a sudden we just hear the Doctor Who theme song playing, and I was just like, what? This can't be it, surely. So yeah. But the Gunfighters, in my opinion, it's an enjoyable story. Definitely an underrated story, in my opinion. I would give the Gunfighters out of 10 a 7.5. It's possible, still enjoyable, not the best. There's obviously some stronger stories, but this is probably one of the more underrated stories of this season and of Classic Who and the William Hartnell era overall. So, my next review is The Savages, the penultimate story of season 3, and Stephen Taylor's final story. So, Stephen gets a goodbye. So we say goodbye to Stephen. And obviously, this is a missing episode review, so nothing exists except But compared to other missing episodes in the Hornhill era, we have at least some material that survives. We actually know what it looks like. So I'll explain more on that when I get to that review. So thank you for watching this video. Please tell me what you thought of the Gunfighters. Like this video and tell me what you thought of the Gunfighters in the comments. So stay tuned, everyone. See you around.